The stars sparkled outside the large windows of the Galactic Orphanage as a small transport ship hovered at the docking bay. Inside the ship, a tiny figure clutched a worn, silver blanket. The girl was small and thin, with skin that shimmered like a faint green light. Her large, golden eyes scanned the room nervously. Every sound seemed louder than it should be. She had traveled far, alone, and she did not understand what awaited her here. When the ship's doors opened with a soft hiss, a few staff members waited. They wore crisp uniforms and moved with precise steps. They looked at the girl and whispered to each other. Their expressions were not kind. One of them stepped forward and said, "This one, she doesn't belong here." The words were cold and the girl's stomach twisted. She had hoped for a home, a place where she could belong, but it seemed the universe had other plans. The girl's small hands shook as she tried to speak, but no sound came out. She looked up at the staff, her golden eyes wide with fear and hope at the same time. The staff exchanged glances and shook their heads. "We cannot accept her," another said. "Take her away." The girl felt her heart drop. She had no one to turn to. She wanted to cry, but she swallowed her tears. She had learned early that showing fear could make things worse. She stepped back toward the corner of the docking bay, hoping somehow someone might notice her. That's when Leo entered. He was the orphanage's human janitor. He was tall and lean, with a gentle face and tired eyes. He had worked here for years, sweeping floors, repairing broken lights, and cleaning rooms no one else wanted to touch. Most people ignored him, thinking of him as nothing more than a helper, someone invisible in the grand halls of the orphanage. But Leo saw things others did not. He noticed small details, the way a child frowned or how someone hid in a corner. Leo watched the alien girl from the edge of the room. He saw her small hands clutching the blanket, her frightened eyes scanning the staff. He felt a pang in his chest. He had seen children rejected before, but there was something different about this one. She was tiny, fragile, and completely alone in a world that could be cruel. Without thinking, he stepped closer. "Hey there," he said softly, kneeling down to her level. His voice was calm and warm. "You don't need to be scared. I'm Leo. I'll help you." The girl blinked, unsure what to make of him. No one had spoken to her kindly since she left her home planet. She had been tossed from station to station and everyone had turned her away. This human, however, looked different. His eyes were soft, not judging, not cold. For a moment, the girl allowed herself to hope. The staff frowned when they saw Leo talking to her. "What are you doing?" one asked sharply. Leo straightened but did not back away. "She needs a place to stay. I'll take care of her for now." "You can't just take her," another shouted. "She's not accepted here." Leo shook his head. "She's here. That's enough for now." The girl took a hesitant step forward. She had never trusted anyone so quickly, but something about this human made her feel safe. Leo smiled gently, patting the floor beside him. "Come on. Let's find you somewhere to rest." The staff muttered among themselves and finally walked away. They were busy with other arrivals and did not want to deal with the situation. The girl let out a small breath she didn't realize she had been holding. She followed Leo down the hallways, her small feet making soft sounds against the metal floors. He led her to a storage room at the back of the orphanage. It was quiet, dusty, and filled with old blankets and unused furniture. Most people would never think of it as a place for a child, but Leo saw it differently. He pulled a folded blanket from a shelf and laid it down gently. Then he added an old pillow he had found in a cupboard. "There," he said. "It's not much, but it's yours for now." The girl looked at the makeshift bed and then at Leo. "For me?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," he replied. "You can stay here. You're safe." For the first time in a long while, the girl felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. She sat on the blanket and hugged her silver blanket close. Leo sat nearby, keeping watch. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to fix everything at once. He just stayed with her, letting her know that she was not alone. Outside the storage room, the lights of the orphanage glowed softly, showing children playing in other wings. But in this quiet corner, a tiny alien girl had found her first spark of safety. And beside her, a human janitor who believed that every child, no matter where they came from, deserved care. And for now that was enough. The storage room smelled faintly of dust and old wood. Boxes were stacked in corners and shelves held forgotten toys and supplies. It was not a room anyone would choose to spend time in, but to Nira, the small alien girl, it suddenly felt like a safe place. She hugged her silver blanket tightly and sat on the folded cloth Leo had laid down. For the first time in a long while, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she was not completely alone. Leo sat on the floor beside her, careful not to crowd her. "It's okay," he said softly. You can rest here. No one will bother you. Nira's golden eyes studied him. She wanted to speak, to ask why he cared, but the words stuck in her throat. People had always looked at her strangely, or worse, turned her away. Humans, aliens, everyone. It felt like the galaxy had decided she didn't belong anywhere. But this human, Leo, was different. Over the next few days, Leo came to the storage room whenever he could. He brought small things he found around the orphanage: a cup of water, a piece of fruit, old crayons, and a notebook with blank pages. Nira watched him silently at first, then hesitantly began to draw in the notebook. Her hands were small and delicate, but her drawings were vivid, full of strange creatures and glowing landscapes. Leo admired them quietly, never interrupting. "You're very good at this," he said one afternoon, pointing at her sketches. Nira's cheeks flushed with a color that glimmered faintly under her green skin. She looked away, unsure what to say. Leo only smiled. "You can show me more tomorrow if you want." Nira nodded slowly. She wanted to say yes, but the fear of being rejected again made her hesitate. Still, she felt a warmth she had not felt in a long time, a feeling she did not have words for. She trusted Leo. Somehow she trusted him more than anyone else she had ever met. As the days passed, Leo taught her small things about the orphanage and life in general. He showed her how to fix little things, like a broken toy or a loose shelf, and how to fold blankets neatly. Nira was a quick learner. She watched his hands carefully, repeating his actions, her curiosity bright and eager. Sometimes she even surprised him by coming up with better ways to solve a problem. Leo laughed quietly when that happened, a sound Nira realized was rare and comforting. The storage room became a small world of their own. Nira learned about simple human habits: how to pour water without spilling, how to balance objects, and even a few quiet words in human language she could use when needed. Leo, in return, learned from her too, about alien symbols, strange plants from her home, and stories of distant planets. They shared these small lessons in silence and gentle conversation. Each day made the bond between them stronger. But the orphanage outside the storage room was not as calm. Other children ran and played in the hallways. Staff members passed by, busy with their duties, paying little attention to the quiet corner where Nira stayed. Occasionally, a staff member would peek into the room and frown at the sight of Leo sitting on the floor with a child. "This is not allowed," one whispered, shaking their head. But Leo never argued. He simply smiled and continued his work. Nira began to feel safe enough to explore a little. She crawled into the corners of the storage room, discovering old toys, strange tools, and books she had never seen before. Leo watched her from a short distance, letting her explore. He understood that curiosity was important for a child, even one from another world. Nira learned to trust him completely, following his quiet guidance and sharing her own ideas. One evening, after the orphanage lights dimmed, Nira looked at Leo. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Leo paused, thinking. "Because every child deserves care," he said simply. "No matter where they come from, no matter what they look like, no matter what anyone else says. You deserve to be safe." Nira blinked slowly. No one had ever said that to her before. Words like that were rare in her life. Her chest felt warm, almost heavy with relief. For the first time, she felt that maybe she could belong somewhere, even if it was just this small room with a human janitor who cared. Days turned into weeks. Nira and Leo settled into a quiet routine. She would draw or explore, and he would repair or bring small treats. They would share stories of their worlds, laugh quietly, and sometimes just sit together in silence. The storage room became more than a refuge. It became home in the smallest but most important sense. The orphanage staff still turned her away in public, but inside this tiny space, Nira knew she had someone who would never abandon her. She could sleep on the soft blanket, eat without fear, and even dream about the stars outside. She had a place to belong even if it was hidden. And that knowledge, that small spark of hope, grew brighter each day. Leo watched her one night as she rested quietly with her silver blanket tucked around her. He thought about all the children he had seen rejected over the years, and he felt a quiet determination. If he could help even one child feel safe, then his work mattered. And he would not stop, not for rules, not for anyone. For Nira and for every child like her, he would keep going. And so, in a quiet storage room far from the eyes of the world, a human janitor and an alien girl began a journey together. One was small and frightened, the other quiet and overlooked, but together they created a bond stronger than any rule or prejudice. And in that small corner of the galaxy, hope had found its place. The storage room was no longer just a quiet refuge for Nira. It had become a small world of discovery and learning. Each day she and Leo found something new, something exciting hidden among the boxes and shelves. Even though the orphanage had refused her, she was beginning to feel like she belonged somewhere. Leo had become her teacher, her friend, and her protector all in one. One morning, Leo arrived with a small, dusty device he had found in a storage cupboard. "Look at this," he said, wiping off the dust. It was a tiny mechanical puzzle with gears and levers. Nira's eyes widened in curiosity. She had never seen anything like it before. She reached out, turning the gears carefully with her delicate fingers. The device clicked in word and a small compartment popped open. Nira laughed, a soft, musical sound that filled the room. "You did it," Leo exclaimed, smiling. "See? You're clever. I think you might even be better at this than me." Nira blushed slightly. She had never been praised like this before. Usually, people only noticed what she could not do, but Leo noticed what she could. As the days went by, Leo taught Nira small skills she could use in her new life. He showed her how to repair old toys, how to organize the shelves, and even how to read a star map he had kept from his own childhood. Nira absorbed everything quickly, her golden eyes bright with wonder. She asked questions constantly, and Leo answered patiently. He admired her curiosity and cleverness. One afternoon, Nira discovered an old hatch at the back of the storage room. It was small and hidden behind stacked crates. "What's this?" she asked, tugging at the metal handle. Leo came over to look. I think it leads to the maintenance tunnels," he said. "We shouldn't go there alone. It can be dangerous." Nira's eyes sparkled. "Please?" she asked, hoping he would say yes. Leo hesitated, then smiled. "Just for a little adventure," he said. "We'll be careful." They crawled through the narrow tunnels, laughing quietly as they explored secret corners of the orphanage that no one else knew existed. Nira loved the feeling of discovery, of being able to explore without fear. She felt brave with Leo by her side. Back in the storage room, Nira began to share stories from her home planet. She spoke of floating forests, glowing rivers, and creatures that shimmered in the sunlight. Leo listened, fascinated. He had never seen such places, even in his dreams. He asked questions, wanting to understand every detail. Through their conversations, Nira learned to trust him even more. She could speak freely and he would not judge her or dismiss her stories. Leo also learned from Nira. She had a unique way of thinking, solving problems differently from anyone he had ever met. Sometimes she would look at a broken toy and suggest a solution he would never have considered. He realized that even though she was small, her mind was sharp and creative. Nira's differences, which others had rejected, were actually her greatest strengths. One evening, as the stars glimmered outside the storage room window, Leo brought a small telescope he had found. "Do you want to see the stars?" he asked. Nira nodded eagerly. They peered through the telescope, spotting distant planets and sparkling constellations. Nira gasped as she saw the colors of a planet that reminded her of home. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Leo smiled. "The universe is full of beautiful things, Nira. And you're a part of it too." Their days became a mix of learning, exploring, and sharing stories. Nira would draw what she saw in the tunnels, what she imagined from her home planet, or even what she learned about human life. Leo would help her build small inventions from scraps he found in the storage room. Sometimes they would sit quietly watching the stars through the window, feeling a sense of peace they had not known before. But life outside the storage room was not entirely quiet. Occasionally, staff members would notice things missing or misplaced. A crate moved here, a light flickering there. They frowned, wondering what was happening, but no one could see the bond forming in that hidden room. Nira and Leo were careful, moving quietly and keeping their small adventures a secret. One day, Nira looked at Leo with a serious expression. "I don't want to be alone anymore," she said softly. "I want to help, to learn, and to belong somewhere." Leo reached out and held her small hand gently. "You're not alone," he said. "And you do belong. Right here with me for now. And later, who knows? You might belong anywhere in the galaxy." Nira smiled, a bright, hopeful smile that lit up her shimmering skin. She realized that even if the galaxy had rejected her, she had found someone who would never turn her away. A human janitor, quiet and overlooked by everyone else, had become her guide, her friend, and her protector. And in the small storage room filled with dusty boxes and old blankets, Nira discovered something more important than toys or devices. She discovered that kindness could make a place feel like home, that trust could make fear disappear, and that even the smallest adventures could lead to the biggest discoveries. For the first time, Nira did not feel like an outcast. She felt strong, curious, and brave. And with Leo by her side, she knew that no matter what the galaxy threw at her, she would never face it alone. Weeks passed and the small storage room became a safe haven for Nira and Leo. They had grown close, learning from each other and sharing stories of distant worlds and human life. But the outside world was not as kind. The orphanage staff were busy, but sometimes they noticed things out of place. An extra blanket here, a toy missing there. They frowned and whispered to each other, but no one had discovered the true secret of the storage room, yet. One afternoon, Leo was fixing a broken shelf when the door to the storage room creaked open. A staff member, sharp-eyed and serious, stepped inside. Nira froze, clutching her silver blanket to her chest. Her golden eyes widened with fear. She had never spoken to an adult like this before, and she did not know what would happen. "What is going on here?" the staff member asked, scanning the room. Her eyes landed on Nira. "Why is this child in the storage room? She's not accepted into the orphanage." Leo stood calmly, shielding Nira with his presence. "She needed a place to stay. She's safe here and I am taking care of her," he said firmly. His voice was calm, but it carried authority. The staff member's eyes narrowed. "You can't just take her. This is against the rules." Leo shook his head. "She is a child. She has nowhere else to go. And no child should be left alone. Not here, not anywhere." Nira watched in amazement. Leo, quiet and gentle, was standing up for her. No one had ever defended her so boldly before. She felt a swell of courage inside her chest. Maybe she could speak too. I can take care of myself," she said softly, her voice trembling but clear. "I know how to do things. I can help. Please, let me stay." The staff member blinked in surprise. No one had ever heard Nira speak so confidently. Most had seen her as fragile and timid, not capable of standing up for herself. Her golden eyes, bright and determined, met theirs with a courage that could not be ignored. Leo nodded at her quietly. "See? She can. She is smart and capable. And she deserves a chance." The staff member hesitated, clearly unsure what to do. Leo's calm, quiet authority, combined with Nira's newfound voice, had created a surprising effect. The rules of the orphanage were strict, but there was a power in honesty and courage that no rule could easily dismiss. After a tense moment, the staff member sighed. "Fine. She can stay for now. But this does not mean she is fully accepted. And you, human, are taking a big risk helping her." Leo only smiled gently. "I'm willing to take that risk. She is worth it." The staff member left, shaking her head, but something in her expression had changed. Perhaps she had begun to see the truth. Nira was not a problem to be hidden, but a child to be nurtured. After the door closed, Nira let out a shaky breath and sank onto her blanket. "Thank you," she whispered. Leo sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did well too," he said. "You found your voice. You showed courage. That's just as important as anything else." For the first time, Nira realized that courage could take many forms. It wasn't just about fighting or running, it was about standing up for yourself and believing that someone would listen. And with Leo by her side, she could do things she had never imagined. Over the next days, life in the storage room continued, but Nira felt stronger. She explored more confidently, tried small inventions with Leo, and even began organizing parts of the room on her own. She was learning not just survival but leadership. Leo watched her with pride, amazed at how quickly she had grown in confidence. One evening, as they looked out the small window at the stars, Nira spoke quietly. "Do you think, maybe one day the orphanage will see me differently?" Leo smiled. "Maybe. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You know your worth. You know that someone believes in you. And that is more important than anyone else's opinion." Nira nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had never felt this secure, this seen, or this valued. The galaxy had rejected her, but she had found a place where she mattered. The storage room was still small, dusty, and hidden. But it was filled with light, the light of friendship, trust, and courage. Nira knew that challenges would come, but she also knew that with Leo's guidance she could face them. Together they had discovered something powerful. Even a small corner of the galaxy could become a world of safety and hope. And as the stars outside twinkled in silent approval, Nira realized something else. She was no longer the fragile, frightened alien girl who had arrived weeks ago. She was strong, brave, and capable. She had a voice, a friend, and a small home. And most importantly, she knew that she belonged somewhere, even if it was hidden away in a dusty storage room with a human janitor who had chosen to care. Weeks turned into months, and life in the storage room had changed Nira in ways no one at the orphanage could have imagined. She was no longer the frightened, tiny alien girl who had first arrived. She was confident, curious, and full of ideas. She helped Leo organize the storage room, repair old toys, and even teach herself small skills with the tools and gadgets he showed her. But more importantly, she had found a sense of belonging and a friend who truly cared. One morning, a few staff members came to the storage room again. This time, their expressions were not angry but cautious. They had heard whispers of Nira's progress, how she had learned quickly, helped in small ways, and even shown intelligence and creativity beyond her years. For the first time, they seemed unsure of what to do. Leo stood beside Nira, calm and composed as always. "She's capable," he said quietly but firmly. "She can contribute. She can belong. And she deserves a chance." The staff members exchanged glances. They had never seen a human janitor speak with such conviction, and they had never heard Nira speak with such courage. Slowly, one of them stepped forward. "Perhaps we were too quick to judge," she said. "Maybe she should be given a proper place here, not just hidden away." Nira blinked in surprise. She had never expected this. She had hoped for safety, maybe friendship, but acceptance seemed like a dream. Leo squeezed her hand gently. "You see? Sometimes the right choice takes patience," he said. From that day, the orphanage began to treat Nira differently. She was given her own small room, still simple but brighter and cleaner than the storage corner she had once slept in. The other children were curious about her, and some even tried to befriend her. Nira was shy at first, unsure of how to respond, but she remembered Leo's lessons about courage and trust. She smiled, spoke, and shared her stories of distant planets, her small adventures, and the lessons she had learned in the storage room. Leo continued his quiet work as the orphanage janitor, but now the staff saw him differently. They noticed how children gravitated toward him, how he encouraged their curiosity, and how he had nurtured Nira in ways they could not. Some of them began asking for his advice, and even the strict head of the orphanage gave him a nod of respect. Leo never sought recognition, but he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that one small act of kindness had grown into something much bigger. Nira thrived. She learned quickly, helping other children with small tasks, teaching them games and sharing her curiosity. She was clever and imaginative, often finding creative solutions to problems that stumped others. The orphanage staff began to see that the child they had once rejected was not a burden but a gift, a reminder that differences could be strengths. One evening, Nira and Leo sat together in her small room, looking out at the stars beyond the orphanage windows. "Do you think the stars remember us?" Nira asked softly. "All the things we do, all the people we meet?" Leo smiled, his hand resting lightly on hers. "I think they do. Every act of kindness, every choice to help, it matters. Even the smallest things can make a difference, Nira. You're living proof of that." Nira leaned against him, feeling safe and content. She thought about her journey, from being abandoned and rejected to finding a home and a friend who believed in her. She realized that courage and kindness could change everything. Leo's guidance had taught her that, and now she could carry that lesson forward. Over time, Nira began helping other children who felt alone or different. She would whisper encouragement, share her drawings, or invite them to small adventures in quiet corners of the orphanage. The children looked up to her, and slowly the orphanage began to feel warmer, kinder, and more inclusive. Leo watched her quietly, proud but never boastful. He had simply done what he felt was right. He had given Nira a chance when no one else would, and in return he had helped shape a brave, thoughtful, and compassionate young girl. Together, they had created a ripple of change in a place that had once seemed cold and uncaring. The alien girl who had once been rejected by the galaxy had found her place. She had a home, friends, and a mentor who believed in her. And the human janitor, overlooked and underestimated by most, had shown that even small acts of kindness could change a life, and perhaps even a world. As they looked at the stars that night, Nira smiled. She knew that her story was just beginning. She had been given a chance and she would use it to help others, just as Leo had helped her. And in that quiet moment, under the glow of distant planets and twinkling stars, the alien girl and the human janitor shared a simple, powerful truth: that hope, courage, and kindness could conquer rejection, and that everyone, no matter how small or different, could make a difference in the galaxy.